Australia has chosen an Ethereum-based blockchain to test their CBDC. But I found proof that Australia's need for XRP is stronger than ever. Is Ethereum really taking over the world, or is it all one big distraction? Australia have acknowledged that everything is moving towards a blockchain, and there are massive areas specifically in finance and payments that require them to kind of get up to speed. Australia, we've seen recently with the laws and legislations that have been passed in Australia, they're moving pretty quickly with this, but they've now also concluded testing for their CBDC. Why did they do this test? Well, they had a multitude of areas that they wanted to test. There's corporate bond settlement, offline payments, superstream payments, pilot CBDC platform features, and an issuance model. And they wanted to basically test the playing field to see how these things function and whether it's viable for them to have their own CBDC and use these functions that they've tested here. So how is it that such a pilot finds its way onto Ethereum? Well, I dug into all of that, spent many hours on this video, and I found the text in the document that reveals it all. Now, the whole structure of this study was built upon a layer 2 platform, an Ethereum-based platform, which is a layer 2 platform called Quorum. Now, we've heard Quorum multiple times, and actually Quorum is appearing all the time when it comes to CBDCs. And this came in the technical findings section in the document. This is on page 8. It says, and I quote, "It was not an objective of this project to evaluate the technology that would be best suited to implementing a CBDC. Nonetheless, certain technology decisions were required to stand up the pilot CBD platform. The project chose an Ethereum-based DLT implementation for the pilot CBDC platform. This provided a customizable and open technology that is widely used for digital asset innovation. The platform facilitated participants by entities using both traditional and DLT-based technologies, and provided a minimum set of capabilities required to facilitate testing of the use cases. The choice of the technology for the platform did not reflect a presumption that a CBDC would be DLT-based, should one ever be issued in the future, or that Ethereum would necessarily be an appropriate choice for a production system. Noting that technology was not a key focus of the project, there were a number of technical findings related to the design of the pilot CBD platform and how it integrated with the use case that may be relevant for future research." And it makes a really interesting point here when it talks about atomic settlement as one of the things they discovered in doing the pilot that were technically not being fulfilled by this Ethereum-based platform. Atomic settlement is most easily achieved when both tokenized money and assets are on the same ledger. Many of the pilot use cases utilized a wrapped CBDC, which would be natural for Ethereum, a type of stablecoin fully backed by the pilot CBDC that was issued on the use case platforms. The wrapped CBDC was then able to be used to conduct atomic settlement with tokenized assets held on the same platform, though it also introduced additional complexity and risk. And I think this is a really important distinction to make when we see these CBDC things, and trust me, get used to it, we're going to be seeing this a lot, where you've got Ethereum-based CBDC platforms built for these training grounds, essentially, for these pilots. Ethereum, and specifically Quorum, are positioned really uniquely because they're in such a great position to provide the playground for these experiments. But when people come in and they experiment, because they can program the different elements of it, the participants quickly realize that actually using an Ethereum-based blockchain has its technical difficulties, like atomic settlement, for example. And so they make the point in the document to say, we're not here to figure out which technology would be best. We're here to just test the ideas. And remember we talked about Project Mariana and how I'm so confident that they will end up using XRP and the XRP ledger. But there was space on that document where it said it's using Ethereum-based technology. Yes, that is true because they're testing it, right? There's a Project Mariana was to test the AMM structure to see if it would work. Ultimately, they're going to take AMMs wherever AMMs work best. And it's no different for this. Ethereum was used here not because it was the best technical solution, but because it allowed the pilot to take place. Throughout all of the pilot, there were different tasks, essentially, that participants in the pilot had to carry out. And out of all the tasks, I thought, wow, I'm getting quite excited about seeing how this tokenized FX settlement test When? I'm going to see the company that's involved with it, and maybe I can pick out some juicy information there. Then I came to find that a company that was handling tokenized FX settlement was by a company called Canvas. But Canvas runs on Ethereum. I'm going to need to look into that. And additionally, cross-border settlement, which obviously had me most excited, was tested by a company called Monuva. What? It's true. The participant that they got to work on FX settlement was Canvas, which is built on Ethereum. But very quickly, I discovered how this might have been the biggest distraction yet. I want you to watch this video of a payment for this CBDC platform being made by Canvas. So, what did you notice? The guy said it took 1 minute for that transaction to go through. I think that's debatable. It felt longer than a minute. But why is this a distraction? I mean, if you think about it, 1 minute is actually it's vastly faster than the traditional kind of cross-border payment system, which can take days. This did only take 1 minute. Well, the Australian bank has also been experimenting with payments on other platforms, most notably Project Dunbar.
This single international platform will connect multiple central banks and commercial banks. Each central bank will be able to use this shared platform to issue their digital currencies, or CBDCs.
So when they participated in Project Dunbar, which is a cross-border settlement thing for CBDCs, what was the result? I'm going to compare the settlement time from Project Dunbar versus Canvas's settlement system for CBDCs. I'm going to play them side by side and see if you notice what I notice.
So let's get started here. We'll select our digital Australian dollar. We'll select our participant here, as I mentioned, Bank 2 in Malaysia. And we'll begin our sponsor bank selecting process. So here we'll select Bank 1 as the sending sponsor bank. And we'll select Bank 2 in Australia for the receiving sponsor bank. Next, we'll select our exchange rate. We're going to keep this in digital Australian dollars. However, if we were to say transfer it to ringgits and bring in an FX leg of this transaction, we can see there's actually an Oracle node on the network that's bringing in real-time market data and providing us with a live FX rate. But we're going to go back to our digital Australian dollars and continue with that one-to-one. Next, we'll enter an amount. Here, we'll select, say, 1 million. And we'll send that transfer right through. Looks like it was successful. And it looks like our treasury is updated appropriately.
If you were a bank, which one was more desirable? The one that took 1 minute or the one that took 3 seconds? The one that had this confusing script running down the screen, or the system that I could have used using only my pinky toe on my right foot? So the big question is, why is Ethereum getting all this attention? The answer comes in the small details. For example, there's something called HTLC, and that means hashed time-locked contract. Just to simplify this, it's a type of smart contract that specifically uses an escrow feature rather than favoring logic. Escrow. Interesting. Now, of course, because all of these tests were run on Ethereum, Ethereum can do this HTLC. So can Bitcoin Lightning. So can the XRPL. And remember I talked about that cross-border settlement test from earlier? Well, the company I mentioned before, Monuva, they work with Ripple. Additionally, if you scroll down to page 43 on this document, you can see a list of all of the steering committees, the supporting partners, industry participants, and other contributors. Take a look at the list. Oh, Ripple Labs. That naturally got me thinking. The XRP ledger, how many of these participants are actually layer 1 blockchains? This whole test itself was run on a layer 2, being Quorum. But if you're a large entity looking to use technology, ultimately it's the layer 1s underneath that will get used silently behind the scenes. All these layer 2s that get built on top, like Quorum, for example, they get all the limelight, they get all of the viewership, they get all of the praise. But underneath, it's layer 1s that are doing all the legwork. So how many layer 1s are in this participant list? There are only 3. Binance, it's not going to be Binance. Hedera, certainly will fit in here somewhere, and the XRP ledger. Out of all of the contributors, all of the participants, there are only 3 layer 1s, and I believe only 2 of those, the XRP ledger and Hedera, are certainly the 2 most important. It certainly seems like Ethereum isn't the way to go. It would also make sense for the technology provider of the real CBDC that comes through to be on this list somewhere, but there are only 3 layer 1s. It's not going to be Binance. Hedera most likely are not going to be handling payments, leaving the XRP ledger. And maybe I'm clutching at straws, okay? But I'm not. I've withheld one piece of proof that might get you very excited indeed, and it comes in the form of the project director. The project director is none other than Dilip Rao. And you go, oh, Dilip Rao, that's a cool name. I even think I've heard of that name before. Is that what you're thinking? Well, let me tell you why you've heard of this name. For 5 years and 6 months, Dilip Rao worked at Ripple. He was the global head of infrastructure innovation, the guy figuring out how this all works together, how we build the infrastructure for this new system and how we incorporate Ripple into it. If you're not subscribed already, what are you doing? Come on. I'm pulling all of these pieces together so you don't have to. There's hours that goes into these videos. And if you appreciate it at all, hit like. If you want to see more, hit subscribe. So this is exactly how Dilip Rao explained his time at Ripple. In this role, I led Ripple's engagement with central banks and financial market infrastructures in their digital journey with DLT. Ripple offers proven technology building blocks and a consulting approach to innovation in national and regional payments infrastructure and the use of crypto assets. The person in charge of the Australian CBDC project is someone who spent lots of time at Ripple, understands Ripple, the XRP ledger, and XRP the asset, has added Ripple to the list of contributors on this CBDC pilot. Metaco, a custody company that Ripple purchased recently, is also on that list of contributors. The XRPL is only one of 3 layer 1 projects that are associated with this project. Industry participants in this pilot use Ripple are partnered with Ripple and work with Ripple closely. They acknowledge that although they used Ethereum may not be the best technically for this job. HTLC can be done on the XRP ledger using the XRPL escrow. Australian banks have worked on Project Dunbar, completely understanding the settlement speed between using an R3 related project, because R3 were used to put that project through, and they can clearly see the difference because using Canvas, which is an Ethereum based system, is 30 times slower than Project Dunbar. And can I say, Dilip Rao, I know I've said this a few times, but you can't underestimate this. Dilip Rao knows XRP, the XRP ledger and its complete use case in painstaking detail. If there was any blueprint as to how CBDC projects are going to go in the future, I think this Australian document shows that very clearly. The testing ground, always done on a layer 2, which is Ethereum based, but ultimately the best technology will win in the end. They're testing concepts right now, not technology. When it comes to deciding which technology, I don't think it's outrageous to guess that they are going to choose the best technology for the job. Is that XRP? Is it the XRP ledger? Is it Bitcoin? Is it XLM? I guess we'll find out. Stay emotionless, and I'll see you in the next one.